Here on the corner of Wellington and Queen lays one of the smallest parks on the island, aptly named Parc Éphémère. A century ago, it was residential housing. Today, this tiny park is owned by Hydro-Quebec. The word éphémère translates into fleeting, as demonstrated by the fact that the public piano and sign itself are now gone. And the word itself, fleeting, brought me around to thinking about fame, which can be the most fleeting of all. Montreal has been, in recent years, very good at enshrining their celebrities and pioneers of days past. Jazz piano is represented by Oliver Jones, Oscar Peterson, and Daisy Sweeney. And of course, the art of songwriting is massively represented by Leonard Cohen. However, these were not the first celebrities who have had their likeness displayed on exterior walls in this city. 100 years ago, on the corner of Mansfield and St. Catherine Street, there was a 3-story tribute to a renowned Montreal musician who is now forgotten. In 1888, Willie Eckstein was the last of 14 children born to George and Wilhelmina Eckstein, and the only one who was born in Montreal. Although everyone in the family played a musical instrument, Willie was recognized as a child prodigy by the age of 3. Studying at the Dominion Conservatory and playing local concerts, Willie toured Europe after giving a concert at Carn Hall, under the patronage of some very familiar names. Then, while playing at the Canadian National Exhibition in Toronto, he was scouted by vaudeville and for several years toured with the Keith Albee Company. Being billed as the boy Paderewski, he toured the States and Canada with the likes of Harry Houdini and Nora Bayes, often getting top billing. Houdini himself was known to hang around backstage just to watch Willie play. For those years, he had a salary of $15,000 a year, more than most of us earned as a teenager. During that time, he played the gold piano in the White House for President Theodore Roosevelt, as well as arriving in San Francisco weeks after the great 1906 earthquake. Perhaps inspired by his image appearing on sheet music of the day, in 1910 Willie wrote his first composition, the Royal Highlanders March and Two-Step. After the years of constant touring wore thin, Willie returned to the city he loved, hoping to establish more stability. He played piano at Lyric Hall, and for a while played with his brother Jack's band, the Eckstein Jazz Orchestra, one of Montreal's first jazz bands. The silent film era was almost in full swing as a new theatre was being built on St. Catherine Street at the corner of Mansfield. The Strand Theatre became Willie's home base for almost 20 years. Other theatres had moving pictures, but only the Strand had moving pictures plus Willie, and it was for that reason that people came from far and wide to see the man on the piano. For the staggering price of 10 to 25 cents, you could catch a film and a concert by Willie, who had become the world's foremost motion picture interpreter. In 1919, Willie wrote his first hit, Goodbye Sunshine, Hello Moon, a feature of that year's production of the Ziegfeld Follies on Broadway. Willie is a recognized pioneer of the recording industry, a close friend of Emil Berliner. They began recording before and after the invention of the microphone. Making records inspired Willie to compose more of his own material, and throughout the 1920s and 30s, he was prolific at writing for himself and other artists. And when the talkies revolutionized the industry, the Strand kept Willie for another 2 years, as he was their main draw. However, with prohibition being enforced in the States and the rest of Canada, Montreal became Sin City, and the nightclub scene flourished. Montreal had a plethora of clubs, theaters, and social events. More than enough to overwork any musician, yet Willie thrived in it. Whether it was the Rialto Hall, the fabulous Windsor Hotel, or Sherbrooke Street's Ritz-Carlton and Berkeley hotels, Willie was always somewhere, playing live or on the radio.
Tonight we're happy to invite and present Montreal's own Willie Eckstein.
Willie was also the first person to play a live music concert on radio in North America. Yet through all the radio appearances, recording, and live concerts, Willie never stopped writing and publishing song after song, with some being in the vein of commercial jingles. Later on, Willie took up a new residence at the Chateau St. Rose, appearing often with Robert Langlois on dual grand pianos. Willie was around for both World Wars, but being less than 5 foot, he was too small to enlist. Instead, he wrote patriotic songs and volunteered to raise money for war bonds by appearing at rallies. Willie loved horses and could frequently be seen riding his on Mount Royal. He also had a race and trophy named in his honor at Connaught Park Racetrack. Sometimes William, sometimes Willie, sometimes Billy. Many knew him as Mr. Fingers. Before there was Friends of the Mountain, there was Willie. Much of his leisure time was spent there, and he frequently wrote letters to the press demanding its protection. Many of his later years were spent riding, walking, or just sitting in his special place. He resided a stone's throw from Beaver Lake with his wife Kitty, dog Casey, and 5 parrots who all spoke a different language. In 1963, when Her Majesty's Theatre was closing, they chose the final night for a tribute to Willie. After all, his 60-plus years in show business was older than the theatre itself. Tragically, Willie suffered a stroke backstage at the end of festivities and never regained consciousness until he later died. He chose not to be buried with his parents and brother Jack in Mount Royal Cemetery, but instead chose to be cremated and have his ashes spread along his beloved Beaver Lake. So if you're one of those strolling along the mountain on a warm summer evening, and you hear a distant haunting piano piece, you know who it is. Since his death, there have been a few newspaper articles and websites remembering the times in a nostalgic way. A few artists still play his tunes, including Montreal's fabulous Mimi Blais. Completely forgotten by Montrealers, in 2006, Willie was inducted into the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame in Toronto. The same year, Leonard Cohen was bestowed the honor. Willie was inducted into the Pioneers category, along with 2 of his songs, the World War I song, Lest You Forget, and this jazz piece, C'est Nice, sung here by Broadway's Louise Pitre.
When he looks into my eyes and I hear love inside. But when we get into the parlor and the lights are out, oh, that's when he shines without a doubt. And the things he does make me get up and shout, naughty. Oh, naughty. Naughty, but it's nice. Thank you. Merci. Thank you.
I'm back on the corner of Queen and Wellington Street, where, in the residential houses that once stood here 132 years ago, William Eckstein was born. There's no walls, no plaque, nothing, except a classic example of the fleeting nature of fame.